87% of realtors get into the business and get out of the business in 2 years. That doesn't exist in our world.
We have massive visions around growing our businesses, and we are always looking to add talent to our world. We do everything in our power to ensure the people we surround ourselves with defy the odds, get into production, and build massive lives for themselves.
If you are a realtor looking to get into the business, we have a blueprint for success.
With locations all across Canada, reach out to us. Let's talk about partnership and opportunities. We are looking forward to it. Welcome to Sales Beast. Today we have the lovely Kate Peterson joining us today to talk about her business, her coaching experience, and overall her journey in real estate. Welcome, Kate.
Well, thanks so much for having me, Anna and Mike. It's really a pleasure to be here today.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. So I know you as a top producing realtor, but more so than that, I know you as my bold coach. I think I've taken bold 6 or 7 times, and only one time you weren't my coach. And I know every time I sign up, I'm praying that it would be you, because every time I attend, I get something different. And I imagine that's partially that you're evolving as a coach, and also that I'm at a different place in my business. Yeah. Can you maybe speak to us about how you got started in real estate and how you ended up as what I think is the best bold coach?
Well, thanks for that, Mike. That's awesome. How I got started in real estate is actually, one of those very stereotypical stories. I used to love going to open houses. I was one of those people that would go to open houses. I love to look at the houses and get decorating ideas. It was just really out of interest. And as the years evolved, my husband said to me, you've never forgotten a house that you've seen. He would say to me, what was the house that we saw in that place that had the blue room? And I would know exactly what house it was. And so he suggested I get my real estate license. We've got 4 kids, and at the time our kids were young, and I was looking for transitioning from being at home with them. And real estate seemed like it would be a really good fit because, of course, we all know that there's a little bit of freedom and flexibility in our schedules, and that I'd be able to be there for the kids after school, that sort of thing. And yet I had this genuine interest in homes and real estate. So I got my license and started. Our kids were between the ages of 5 and 12, I guess, when I got into the business. And it just kind of took off from there. Right from the get-go, I would do the agent open houses and just lead generated all the time. Open houses is really how I started to build my database. That's really what it boiled down to. Saturdays and Sundays, I could fit it into my schedule. I could be there, and it was just load the database with people coming through open houses and tons of follow-up with those people.
Amazing. It's funny how the thing that you started real estate in, or the one thing that you were most passionate about, is the one thing that ended up being your biggest lead generation pillar in the beginning.
Yeah, it was really kind of interesting. It just seemed, for me at the time, it seemed the fastest way to find people who were looking to transact in real estate. They were putting their hands up. I'm a potential buyer. And again, being with the kids in the family schedule, it was just such an easy way to put it into the calendar every Saturday and Sunday from 2 to 4. And I'd preview houses in the area so that I always knew my market. I mean, I knew my market cold, because if somebody came in and the house wasn't for them, I always wanted to ensure that I had 2, 3, 4 other houses I could think of off the top of my head that might meet their needs. So I studied the market like crazy before I went into the open houses. And, it pays off. My fastest was somebody who walked in and bought the house. That's only happened to me once. That was cool. And one of my best ones was they came in, they loved the house. They didn't love the street. I said, well, how well do you know the area? Go check this house out. And that was the one they bought. I think it was at the time it was $1 million, which in today's dollars would be a lot more. And I only spent about 5 hours in total working with them. They loved it. I just, sometimes you get lucky right off the top of your head.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you, from what I remember about you when I was in your classroom, I remember you mentioning you're not big on cold calling. Your preference is to be face to face with people.
Face to face, yeah.
And you blew my mind this past Bold course. You were talking about the mindset around lead generation. You were talking about door knocking and your thought process as you knock on the door and maybe get someone that's not pleased to see you. Or could you share with people how you think about lead generation?
Well, what I'm not, here's the thing in real estate, and I think I realized this really early. I just needed people who had a real estate need. Like, the family was growing. We had bills to pay, a mortgage, like everybody else out there. We've all got budgets that we've got to work with. So when I started, it's like, I need people who need to buy or sell. So when I came across somebody who was upset or angry or just said, no, I don't need to sell, I was like, bummer, that's too bad. On to the next, because my mindset was, I've got to find people who have a genuine real estate need. I can help those people. I'm not here to convince somebody who has no desire or no need to move to move. So my lead generation was to find people who expressed an interest in buying or selling real estate. And when I started door knocking, the experience was hilarious. The first 5 houses I knocked ever, all 5 yelled at me. They came to the door and yelled at me. And obviously the first thing I thought was, who wants to live in this grumpy neighborhood? Like, who are these angry, grumpy people? And once I'm very grateful that happened, because once I got through those 5 doors, I was no longer worried about what was going to happen on the next porch. Instead of being worried, it was replaced with curious. I wonder what's going to happen next. It was no longer about finding a buyer or seller. It was no longer about me needing a client. It was pure curiosity. What could happen next? And as luck would have it, the next person was nice, and on it went. And I did find a new client in that evening out who sold, then bought, and then referred us to their parents, and actually became a really good friend of mine as well. So not only did I gain business, I gained a new friendship out of it as well. So it ended up being wonderful and a great way to realize that we're just out there looking for the person interested in making a move. And if not, we thank them and let them get on with our day, and we get on with ours. It's not personal.
Yeah. For sure. I have so when I started lead generating, I had no idea what I was doing and had no idea what kind of volume I would have to do in order to find some clients and sell some houses. And I remember my first day on the job, I Googled, how many people do you need to cold call in order to sell a house? That's what I did.
Yeah.
Fortunately, 6 months later, I started coaching with someone and they provided me with a lot more guidance. But yeah, it's I find sometimes if you can just detach yourself from the results and what people and the negativity some people share with you and focus on just finding that one person that you can potentially help. It makes life so much easier.
It makes it so much easier when you just let the rest go. So when I shared my door knocking script with the room, hi, I'm Kate from Keller Williams Realty, and I really need to ask you to move. And people literally, they'll laugh. They're so taken aback. It's so direct. And they're like, I'm not moving. And you can see the shock in their face. And I'm like, oh, shoot, that doesn't help me at all. And they laugh. And I thank them for coming to the door and ask, seriously, do you have any plans for making a move? And they're like, no, we love it here. We're here for the long haul. Okay, well, thanks very much. And I'm off their porch, and they're very grateful that I'm not trying to sell them a service they have absolutely no desire or need for. Mm-hmm. And you do find that people who go, really? Why? We have been thinking about it. And those are the people that you can stop and book an appointment with. And I'll book appointments with those people. And we'll find that on every door knocking trip, it takes me about 2.5 hours to get to about 20-25 contacts. And we'll typically add 1 to 4 people to our database every 20 people. And obviously some of those over time will come to fruition. And we've literally listed people within 3 days of knocking on their doors. Sometimes you just find that immediate person when you knock enough doors.
100%. I think it can be very discouraging, cold calling, door knocking, whatever it may be, especially when you're not getting the results. But sometimes for me, if I just look at the stats, like where I'm sitting today, it's over the past few years, 7% of the homes in this area change hands every single year. So if I speak to 100 people, I should find 7 people that are planning on selling in the next year.
Yeah, 100%.
That's always what's driven me. My coach also gave me, I'm sure you've heard of this one before, but I remember when I first started coaching with her, she said, Mike, how much money do you want to make per year? And I gave her my number. How many contacts are you willing to make per day? And then we looked at how many that was over the course of the year and divided the money by the contacts. What she told me was, per contact, regardless of whether or not they yell at you, scream at you, give you a big hug, whatever it may be, you're making $6 per contact. And that's really what drove me and made me stop caring about people that got upset with me.
Well, and what we discovered over time is the majority of people don't actually get upset with you. They don't have a real estate need and they just want you off the porch. And fair enough, they're trying to get on with their day as well. And when a lot of times what we'll do is I really enjoy door knocking with other people on our team. My husband and I will go out door knocking together a lot. We'll do each side of the street and then sort of convene at the end of the street and compare notes. How was it? How many grumpy people did you have? I mean, I had somebody yell at me. I was long past the house. I'd come around the other side of the street. They yelled at me and, why are you out here? And don't bother my mother. And she's not moving. And he's yelling at me from across the street. And his mom had been so sweet at the door. And I just said to him, I said, okay, no problem. I'll put you on our do not knock list. I mean, there's nothing that you can say or do. I don't know what kind of a bad day he's having. And obviously he's concerned about his mom. So you just, I just said, we'll put you on a do not knock list. And I carried on. And that day we did find another seller that day. So, it's easy when you stick with the system and know that at some point you are going to find that potential client. It makes it easy to just laugh those ones off and carry on with your day and just celebrate the wins. And, we'll come back to the office asking who got the grumpiest person. It's almost a competition. Who can find the grumpiest person today? And we laugh about it and just go, okay, you're the winner today, and move on from that.
Yesterday we had an event here in Vaughan and our regional director, Ryan McLean, was there, and he had an opportunity to speak to all the agents in our productivity coaching program. And one of my biggest takeaways from that is like the people that do more of the boring stuff up front and are consistent with doing the boring stuff like door knocking, cold calling, whatever kind of lead generation method that is monotonous, but it's something that needs to be done every single day. Those are the people that are going to have the most success. Those are the people that are going to, thrive through a shifting market, that are going to end up growing their business. And I know you talk a lot about consistency. So can you maybe say what kind of things you guys are doing in a shifting market to double down on your business right now?
We're really doubling down on the lead gen right now, and with a very, very strong focus on making sure that we get people's contact information and get them into our database. We're absolutely running more events to get more people to call in. Because the consistency does matter. And we do, Gary says, actually, Gary's doing Quantum Leap today down in Texas. And as a coach, I'm able to dial into that. And everything he's telling the room this morning speaks to exactly this point. We have to make peace with the fact that we're going to have to do things that we don't necessarily want to do, or that we just find it boring. It's boring to be on the phones. It's boring to be doing calls for 3 hours or out door knocking for 2 to 3 hours every day. It's the necessary evil, if you will, of our business. The fun part is actually working with their client and negotiating a deal. We don't get that if we don't do the upfront work, to Ryan's point. So I'm looking to help my team not be bored by these things and come in with energy every day. Some days we're out door knocking. Other days we are calling. One day will be a focus purely on the database. Who are your favorite people to talk to today that you can have really fun, nice catch-up conversations with and see if you can get a referral? We're going to be doing a door knock food drive campaign once the Father's Day Reverse Bold 100 Call in to Win is done, so that we will be out there in the neighborhood, because of course what we know, especially with inflation, the food bank needs are really, really high. And this is not an original idea that I thought of. I'm sure you know the West team up in Ottawa. We're ripping off and duplicating the success that they had with that. This is what I love about Keller Williams, is that we can each share these ideas. We're all in our own markets, and we can really impact our own communities. We can impact the people on our teams, and we can impact our own businesses and bottom lines with the sharing of all of these ideas that we're doing.
That's funny you mentioned that. Anna and I are working on a book. I have no idea when it'll be done, and I just finished a full chapter on R&D.
Yeah.
Rip off and duplicate. I don't think I've ever come up, since I've been a realtor, I've never come up with my own creative idea. And I'm so blessed to be part of this company.
It's true. As so many of the things, some of the things, I'm really proud of. Some of the ideas that I've come up with. I'm like, yeah, this was my idea. And other things are just like, wow, I can't believe I never thought of that before. Let's implement that into our business. And I think, in addition to the consistency, because what we know, consistency compounds, the other thing that's really important, particularly in a company like Keller Williams, where there's so much sharing going on, we have to be purposeful on actually being an implementer. It's one thing to write down all of these ideas. If I could really say anything, it's, for goodness sake, pick one idea and implement it. Imagine what our businesses would look like if we implemented as simple as one new idea a year, a quarter, a month, whatever it is for wherever people are in their businesses. It can have massive impact down the road.
100%. One thing I wanted to talk to you about, I know you're huge on this. So you have 4 kids. You were a hockey mom, from what I understand.
Yeah.
You run a massive team that's very successful. I think the way you manage all of that is through time blocking. Can you share with us the way in which you time block and how that's helped you along your journey?
The time blocking has been huge. I really started in real estate full time when my kids were all in school full time. So I was in licensing while my daughter was half days in school in JK and SK. As soon as she hit grade 1 and was in school full time, I was in full time real estate. Because I had those hours. At the same time, I still had them come home from school for lunch. I was able to do that. So the time block was lunch was going to be at 12. So when they'd leave for school until lunchtime, I was either on the phones or out door knocking or doing market research, whatever. I wasn't as disciplined with lead gen at the time because I wasn't with Keller Williams. I didn't realize exactly how important that is. Maybe I'd be even bigger now if I'd known from day one. I was very, very purposeful in the hours that they were in school because I was also purposeful. When they were home for lunch, I was there for them as their mom for lunch. I wasn't a realtor in that hour. I was their mom. The irony is, as we all know, as realtors, your phone starts ringing when the clients are towards the end of their workday. That's when they start going on to realtor.ca and they're calling and everything. So I always found 3 o'clock to 3:30 to be the witching hour. The kids are bursting through the door. Dinner is boiling over on the stove. The dog is barking. And that's when your clients are going to start calling you. And so bribery in our home was a very big thing with the kids. I would bribe them with things so that they would go, quiet, quiet, mom's trying to sell a house. And they'd let me get through my phone call before all heck would break loose again. And then everything was scheduled around their evening activities, which were a lot. So, between my husband and myself, we had 2 kids each, between soccer, hockey, baseball, cheerleading, music, guitar, piano, all of those things. I would schedule my appointments around their hockey games, around their soccer games. So if somebody said, can we go see this house at 6? I'd apologize and say, I'm sorry, I already have an appointment at 6, but I can be there at 7:20. To make sure that I could be there for the hockey game, because they weren't going to have another hockey game. And my family has always been my first priority. So they were time blocked with the same level of importance as my clients, and my business never suffered. My clients, in fact, understood. Sometimes they would, once they got to know me, they would ask me, are you just coming from a hockey game? And I'd say yes. And they'd go, who won? And I'd share the story, and then they'd go, okay, so this is what we're looking at doing with our house. And what they knew and understood as well is they had my full attention. Much as I was present for my kids in that hour or whatever it may be, I was fully present for them as my clients. And they never felt like I was dividing my attention between them and my family. When I was with them, I was with them. When I was with my family, I was with my family. And that was always an intention of mine, that the family comes first and the business will be what it is around my family. And eventually all the kids ended up getting pulled in, and they all worked for me, and they learned how to print off listing sheets and ride their bikes to my open houses when I'd run out. And one of my sons now is our ops manager. He runs our team on the back end.
Wow, that's amazing.
I think that call it a luxury. It shouldn't be a luxury to be able to put your family first, but the ability to do that in this business, I think within our world, it really starts at the top of Gary Keller. I've heard stories about him. People have told me he'll never fly to see anyone else. If someone wants to have a meeting with him, they have to fly to him, and it's so he can be home with his family every night at 6.
Yeah.
When I didn't have kids when I got in business, I do now. And back then, I didn't really care that he was home every day at 6. I wanted to work until 9 p.m. But now I view him as such a great role model in that sense, because I have many friends in different companies, and it doesn't work that way.
It's a real mindset shift. And like I say, for me, I treated everything that my kids were doing. I thought, well, I can't be on 2 listing appointments at the same time. So Anna, if I was meeting with you, Mike, I wouldn't be able to meet with you. So what would I do in that circumstance? I would have to schedule each of you. And I think one of the big things that the majority of agents forget, especially newer agents who are really eager and they don't, they may be fearful of not meeting their clients' needs. They have a belief that if I'm on call 24/7 and if I'm at their beck and call, the odds of me being able to secure that client are higher. And I would argue, in fact, the opposite is more true. I think everybody understands what a schedule is. Professionals understand what a schedule is. And when we schedule and make the time in the evenings and the weekends that our clients would require, it does not have to come at the expense of our family events and our family commitments. And if, Mike, if you've got kids and you know what it is to be home at 6 o'clock for dinner, and you've made whatever arrangements you need for different bedtime schedules, whatever your life looks like, your clients are going to understand when you go, oh, I'm sorry, I already have a meeting at 6. I can be there at whatever o'clock. And your family will be happier because of that as well. And I think a big reason that couples where one is in real estate and the other isn't, where they come apart, is there isn't an agreement on the home front of this is part of the business is evening and weekends. We have to realize that that is what it is and accept it. It doesn't have to come at the expense of our family. It has to be written into the calendar with a conversation within our family of what that means and what that looks like. And so with my kids, when they were younger, they wanted me to be there. When they started getting older, they wanted me out. So, Mom, it's okay. You can be home less. We're good. I don't know if they were raiding the fridge or what they were doing. They were probably playing all the video games I didn't like them to play because they were too violent. It does change over time. There has to be an agreement within the household first, and then it can work. And there are going to be times where you have to say, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I really believe that it's all about setting expectations and everyone's understanding of the ground rules that you set with them. Like I've had clients that I let them know, like, hey, my phone is off at 8, and they'll text me like 8:05, and they'll be like, I know it's after 8, but just by the way, you don't have to respond. Just respond tomorrow. I know this is your time, and that's fine. Like you don't have to be on 24/7, and that's super, super important.
It's super important. And I think people underestimate how accepting your clients are going to be on that. Mm-hmm. And I remember I was always a night owl. So I'd be with the family. I'd have all the activities, games, all the rest of it. Get the kids settled at home to bed, dinner, snacks, all the rest of it. And I'd go online, and that worked for me. Part of my schedule, I was never an early riser. I was always that night owl. So I had no problem sitting down at my computer at 10, 11 o'clock at night and working through. It always felt really good for me. I can go to bed. I've put all those things to rest, and I'd wake up fresh the next morning without being worried, look after walking the dog, making breakfast, lunches, whatever the case may be. And I answered somebody at midnight, and her response was, you didn't have to respond. Like, why are you up working at midnight? And I said, well, this time tonight actually worked for me. And we had this great conversation just over email. She didn't want to call because her kids were asleep as well. We went out to see the house that she was emailing me about, that I'd done all the research on for her. And she and her husband ended up buying that house. And she said, wow, if I ever thought that at midnight I'd be able to figure out with my agent that this would be the right house for me, I wouldn't have thought so. And, we have to do what works for us. And she had no expectation that I would answer her at midnight. It's just we were both up, so why not?
Yeah, that's super important. And now, I wanted to ask you really quickly, Kate, too. So now that your family is integrated in the business, first of all, what does your organizational model look like? And how has it changed from when you started as a solo agent to what you guys have today?
So as a solo agent, I'm control freak right here. So I loved doing everything myself. It was very exciting to do it all myself. And when I really started to get busy, what I realized is from one listing to another listing, I was forgetting what I was doing, and for each client. And I wanted to make sure to bring the same experience to every client that I was working with. So as I was uploading listings and organizing everything, I started making a list of what I would do for a client so that I'd remember to do it all the same way for the next client. What I didn't realize at the time, literally just on a piece of paper beside my computer, I didn't realize I was writing my own ops manual, which is what that ended up being. So then as I began to grow, I made all the classic mistakes because I had not read Millionaire Real Estate Agent yet. And I brought on an extra agent before bringing on an administrator. So note to past self, hire an administrator before you hire another agent. Just read the red book. That's the way to go. So I made those few mistakes. Then I finally brought on admin. And I was very fortunate after a couple of average hires to find somebody who was really talented, who had real estate experience, And boy, she just took all my handwritten notes and put it into the computer for me, put it into my CRM, and we just had a system. Everything was templated. All we had to do was, just listed cards, send the copy and the picture to the printer, and everything was in a template. So the efficiency in that was huge. I was able to leave the company I was with, come to Keller Williams, and double my business, because Keller Williams really helped me understand what lead generation truly was. And I already had the systems in place with my new administrator that I could double the business from the amount of lead gen I was doing without needing the extra leverage, because the systems on the back end were so strong. And at that point, we started to bring on, my husband came into the business and joined me. He started part-time. I needed coverage for open houses, he was a showing assistant at the very beginning for me. And then he finally left his job in the tech world, joined me full-time. And at that point, we started bringing on agents. And now we've got 5 agents. We have a full-time marketing person, a full-time administrator, and a virtual administrator now to look after all of our transactions. She's our TC, our transaction coordinator. We also have our own in-house home stager. And we do all of our own home staging. I have all of the supplies that we need for home staging. And our stager is also fully licensed. So our stager will actually act as a showing assistant for all of the agents on our team. When they start to get a little bit busy, she's able to take the overflow when extra showings are needed and our agents just don't have enough time. So it's working out really well to have our home stager also be licensed.
It's a great piece of leverage. And
it's amazing leverage.
My next question for you, it ties into leverage. So you're running this successful team. At some point, you made the decision to go off and learn how to be a bold coach and coach bold, which I'm sure is a huge time commitment.
Oh man, you have no idea.
Why did you decide to put yourself through that, and what's the value to you been since you started?
Why did I decide to put myself through that? My family asked me that.
Like 4 kids, a team, a husband that's a realtor, they're hockey kids, plus bold coach. That's a lot.
So my oldest was already off to university when I started this. So things were starting to lighten up. My second one was driving. So we had an extra driver. Things on that front were getting a little bit easier. Why did I decide to become a bold coach? One of the things we have to look at, what am I passionate about? Passionate about what fills my soul. And I love sharing, mentoring, and giving back to all of the agents within Keller Williams and all the guests that come to the room as well. There's such a path for success for each person in the way that they themselves. So I'm just going to ask her to can you get me some water? Thanks. Everybody can find their way through Keller Williams. There's a path for everybody, whether it be residential, commercial, multi units. There's so many different opportunities. And I just had so much given to me, and over my time at Keller Williams, and had been doing all of the Ignite courses. And I really discovered I loved sharing all of the Ignite. I loved watching people get an aha in the room and implement and success and hear their stories. I did this and I got this out of the material, and then you said that, and I was able to go door knock that house and I got a listing. It was very satisfying to me to watch others in our company, and like I say, the guests succeed. So I decided to go down, how could I impact even more people? And that was bold. It's a very exciting program. It's so mindset based, and watching that shift of people in the room go from I can't do this to I can do this to I did it and I had success with it. It's such an incredible journey to have the honor of being part of that. So I told my MAPS coach, that I would like to be a bold coach in 3 years. And he said, okay. And we started down that path of what's it going to take to be a bold coach. And at the time, I was probably doing about 50 or so transactions a year on my own. And the minimum standard, I think, is about, I don't know if they've changed it. When I was starting, it was 75 transactions 2 years in a row that you had to be doing. So he came back to me and he said, okay, the standard is 75 transactions, and of course, train the presenter, train the trainer, coaching skills camp, all of those things. Well, all of those learning opportunities are easy. You just sign up, put them on the calendar and go. Now I have to go from 50 to 75 units. So I was like, okay, so I did 75 instead of doing 50. And then I sat back and I was like, well, why wasn't I doing 75 before? Because it was just extra lead generation. It was making a few more calls every day. It was being more consistent with my follow-up. I was shocked. The process to qualify to become a bold coach didn't take any more time than the business I was already doing. And that was the stunning thing to me. Then came the journey of learning everything that it takes to be bold. And that is 7 weeks of 6 hours of material that we have to know inside and out for every bold room. And that was interesting to keep up the pace of being in sales and running the team and learning all of that. That's when I really got strong on bringing more leverage onto the team, because without people behind me, there's no way I could have. It took a lot of extra hours. It was a big time commitment. I did spend that first year, I did spend more time than I would have wanted away from my family. And in the end, it was absolutely worth it. I've grown so much from being around that bold group.
I have to tell you a really quick story because it was happening during Bold. I don't know if I shared this with you. I don't know if I shared it with you, Mike, either. But I actually was sitting down with an agent that had been with KW 4 years ago, and he was considering coming back. He'd had like the worst couple of years of his life, and there was just like a lot going on. So we met. We had obviously an amazing chat, and then towards the end of the conversation, he started talking about Bold, and he's like, I just remember this one is always in the back of my head. I always have this bold law in my head and I cannot get it out of my head. And it was focused on the plan, not the problem. And I like got shivers and I looked at my phone because every week during Bold, we select a bold law that we want to focus on. And I literally had it highlighted as my screensaver. I was like, this is so weird right now, but it was like such a good, impactful moment. My question to you, Kate, is what is your favorite bold law?
Oh, clarity is power. Clarity is power. Without a doubt, that's the number one that comes to mind all the time. Clarity is power when it comes to running a team. The leverage. If your leverage isn't clear about your expectations and what you're looking for from them and what the plan is, you can't lead if you don't have clarity around what your plan is. And your people are looking for clarity. They're not the visionary. That their job isn't to be the visionary. They're the implementers. They're there to help me carry out my vision. So my job is to be clear with them. And when you've got all of these ideas and things going on in your head, it's really a challenge to be clear with your staff. And then you go, well, things didn't go the way I wanted it to go. And they're like, well, we didn't have very much to go on. So you have to be clear with them. You have to be clear with the standards with your team and your expectations with your team. If you're not clear with them what your team standards are, they're going to do what they've always done. They'll get what they've always gotten. The whole reason they join a team is they're looking for that accountability. They're looking for that clarity around the presentations, the activities, the scripts. So you have to be solid in that. With your clients, you need clarity for them and you need clarity from them. We can't help people if we don't know, if we're not clear on what their agenda is in their real estate journey. that bold law for me just transcends every single part of our industry, from our leadership to our day-to-day activities to our interactions with our clients. Frankly, it's helped my marriage as well, because my husband and I communicate differently. So we'll just look at each other and go, clarity is power. What the heck are you talking about right now?
That's so good.
So that's our bold law.
Nice. What are your plans as we move into the future? Do you have any big goals around coaching, or where you want to take your team or your family?
Oh my goodness. That's a really, really good question. This has been such an ever evolving role for me. When I got my license, it'll be 17 years in September that I've been licensed, and just that number blows me away. Like many people, I started in the industry. I was working, the kids were young, so I just had a part-time job. And my mindset at the time was, oh, if I could just replace that income in a little bit less time and a little closer to home, that would be good. And, here I am 17 years later, and I'm just like, I've had to rewrite that 5-year plan so many times, because my goal to be a bold coach was a 3-year plan, and my MAPS coach helped me achieve that in a single year. So I went from 3 years down to 1 year. I'm like, okay, well, what's next? We're at this point, what we're looking at is continuing to grow the team. We're getting a little bit older, so we're looking a little bit more at the handoff plan to have the next generation. Our son is working on getting his license. So we're really looking at what is the plan over the next 5 to 7 years to have the team running under his guidance versus ours, and really do that golden handoff for him, so that we can continue to enjoy the same lifestyle that we enjoy right now, and still have the people in our world continue to be successful. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, our success rests on their success. So from a coaching point of view, for me, it will be continuing in the bold world, which I love, and then continuing to be coaching the agents on our team and let them look after the production on the team.
That's great. Anna, you want to ask the question?
Yeah. So we ask all of our guests one final question before we wrap it up. So Kate, who do you know that we should have on this podcast?
Oh, that is a great question. Who should you have on this? Well, I don't know all the people that you've already had on it. I'm thinking of so many people that you already know and may have already interviewed. You might want to think about having Corey Harding-Keys on this podcast. Corey is growing an amazing business and is moving into the luxury world at a rapid fire pace. And it is really, it's great to be in business with her. She's in our brokerage here. And everything that she's done is really amazing. I'm watching her growth over the last few years really take off, and it really shows consistency. If there's anybody I say that exemplifies consistency, it would be Corey, and she's just lovely. I think she would make an amazing guest on your podcast.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Thank you. And thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Every day I'm hustling, every day I'm hustling, every day I'm hustling, every day I'm